Welcome back, everyone, to episode 6 of our podcast series, Finding God's Voice in Digital Noise. Manasseh here, and I'm joined as always by my good friend Emmanuel. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Manasseh. Always good to be back with you. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation because it feels incredibly relevant to, well, just about everyone living in our modern world, honestly.
Absolutely. If you've been on this journey with us through the series, you know we've been uncovering something crucial that most people just miss. We don't just use technology. No, technology is actively shaping us, our rhythms, our desires, our attention, and ultimately, our spiritual lives.
It's a powerful truth, isn't it? And today, we're taking a deep dive into what I believe is one of the most important concepts of modern spirituality, attention as worship. It's such a profound idea, yet so often overlooked.
It really is. Because in this digital age we're living in, your attention isn't just some mental resource you have. It's not just a commodity. It is, in fact, a spiritual offering. And that's what we want to explore, how what you consistently look at shapes what you love, who you trust, and ultimately, who you become.
I think it's a concept that hits home for so many people. You feel this pull, this constant demand for your attention. But to frame it as worship, that puts a whole new spiritual weight on it.
Exactly. Let's start with a foundational truth, Emmanuel, because I think it reorients everything. Your attention is the most valuable thing you possess, period. It's the doorway to your mind, the steering wheel of your soul, the very foundation of your desires.
That's such a great way to put it. The steering wheel of your soul. It makes you realize just how much control we might be giving away without even realizing it. I mean, think about it. Companies pay billions for our attention. Every app, every website, every influencer, they're all aggressively competing for it.
They really are. Algorithms chase it. Notifications interrupt you for it. It's a relentless battle out there. And the scary truth is, whatever gains your attention will eventually gain your affection. It's almost an inevitability.
It's like a slow, quiet indoctrination, isn't it? In the digital world, our attention is constantly being pulled, pushed, prodded, and frankly, hijacked. You scroll through social media for just a minute, and suddenly an hour's gone, and you don't even remember what you were looking at half the time.
Exactly. And yet, Scripture teaches a different story about our attention. The psalmist says in Psalm 16:8, I have set the Lord always before me. It's about intentionality. Attention isn't just passive reception, it's spiritual positioning. Where you place your gaze determines what shapes your heart.
That's a powerful counter-narrative to the digital noise. Instead of letting things hijack us, we can actually set our gaze. That implies agency, doesn't it? It implies we have a choice in this.
Absolutely. And that leads us to another core biblical principle. You become what you behold. This isn't just some abstract idea. It's woven throughout the Bible. When Israel looked at idols, they became hardened. They took on the lifelessness of the things they worshipped.
But then, when they beheld God's glory, they were transformed. We see it with Moses, don't we? His face shone after being in God's presence. It's almost like a mirror effect.
Exactly. Think about Peter. When he looked at the waves, he sank. Fear overwhelmed him, right? But when he looked at Jesus, when his gaze was fixed, he walked on water. The power of his focus determined his physical reality in that moment.
That's incredible. And even the Israelites in the wilderness, when they were bitten by the snakes, they were told to fix their eyes on the bronze serpent, and they were healed. It wasn't the serpent itself, but the act of obedience and faith in looking to God through that symbol.
Precisely. Your gaze determines your growth. It's a fundamental truth. But here's the kicker in the digital age, Emmanuel. The things you behold the most are the things discipling you the most. And if we're honest, many of us are being discipled more by screens than by Scripture.
Oh man, that hits hard. It's true though, isn't it? We look at the lives we compare ourselves to on social media, the curated highlight reels. We absorb opinions that might not align with our values just because they're trending. We scroll through fears, the endless cycle of bad news.
The arguments we witness, the updates we relentlessly chase. And then we wonder why we feel anxious, jealous, distracted, unfulfilled, or spiritually dry. Why our faith feels thin. It's not a mystery, is it? Because our soul always reflects the direction of our attention.
It's like a spiritual law of gravity. What you focus on pulls you in that direction. And sometimes you don't even realize you're being pulled until you're already feeling the effects.
Exactly. It's subtle, but powerful. I remember a young woman once told me a story that perfectly illustrates this. She said her anxiety was rising every single week. Her faith felt weak, her joy felt thin, and her mind felt totally overcrowded. She just felt overwhelmed.
That sounds so relatable, honestly. I think many people feel that way, especially with the constant influx of information.
Right? And she said, Manasseh, I thought I needed more spiritual discipline, but what I really needed was new attention. And what she did was so simple, yet revolutionary for her. Every time she opened her phone, she intentionally opened the Bible app first. Not for long, sometimes just 20 seconds. A verse, a small thought, just a moment.
Wow, just that small intentional shift.
That's it. Within weeks, she told me, I didn't change my life dramatically. I just changed the first thing my eyes looked at each day. And she said her mind cleared, her emotions steadied, her spiritual hunger returned, just from that one tiny change in her attention.
That is such a powerful story. It underscores how accessible transformation can be. It doesn't have to be some grand sweeping overhaul. Sometimes it really does begin with simply redirecting the gaze.
It really does. And that brings us to what I call the theology of attention. Here's something most Christians never really consider, but I believe it's foundational. Attention is a form of worship, because worship is whatever we consistently give our focus to.
That's a profound statement, Manasseh. It challenges our traditional understanding of worship, doesn't it? We often think of worship as singing or prayer or going to church. But to say it's sustained focus,
It's a deep gaze, Emmanuel. When you give something consistent attention, you're not just looking at it, you're giving it formation power in your life. In the Old Testament, God constantly warned Israel not to turn their eyes toward idols. Not because the idols themselves had power, but because their attention did. Their gaze was the gateway to their becoming.
that makes so much sense. It puts the responsibility back on us, doesn't it? And Jesus himself spoke to this, right? The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eye is healthy, your whole body is full of light. Matthew 6:22. That verse always struck me as deeply spiritual, but also very practical.
It is. It tells us that what you pay attention to fills your inner world with either light or darkness. It's that simple. It's that profound. And in our current environment, with so much competing for our gaze, it's easy for that lamp to get a bit dim.
So how exactly is the digital world distorting this then? Because I think we all feel it, but maybe can't quite articulate it.
Great question. I've identified three main ways the digital world distorts our attention. First, there's fragmented attention. You know this feeling. You start one thing, then you switch to 5 others, then you forget the first one entirely. This constant jumping around weakens our spiritual focus. We can't go deep.
Oh, I know that one well. It's like my brain is constantly trying to multitask, but really it's just doing a lot of things poorly. My focus just feels scattered.
Exactly. Then there's hijacked attention. This is where notifications, trends, algorithms, they pull your mind in directions you never chose. You open an app for one purpose, and suddenly you're watching a video about something completely unrelated, something you didn't even want to see. This steals the attention you need for God, for intentional growth.
That's the one that feels the most insidious to me, honestly. It's not even my choice sometimes. The algorithms are just so good at predicting what might keep me hooked, even if it's not good for me.
Right. And finally, the third distortion is passive attention. This is where you absorb things you never intended to consume. Your spiritual life is shaped by whatever happens to appear on your screen, whatever the algorithm feeds you, whatever your friends share. When attention becomes passive, spiritual formation becomes completely accidental. And accidental formation rarely leads to Christ-likeness.
That's a sobering thought, accidental spiritual formation. Because when you're not intentional, you're essentially letting the world disciple you. So what can we do, Manasseh? How do we reclaim this holy attention?
That's the crucial question. I've put together 5 practices for reclaiming holy attention, turning it back into an act of worship. They're simple but incredibly powerful if applied consistently. The first is the first gaze principle.
The first gaze. Tell me more.
It's exactly what it sounds like. Make sure the very first thing your eyes land on each day points your heart toward God. Like the woman in the story, a verse, a prayer, a moment of quiet, a breath of gratitude. Your first gaze sets your spiritual direction for the entire day. It's about being proactive instead of reactive.
I love that. It sounds like such a foundational habit. What's next?
The second practice is Scripture as digital anchor. This is about intentionally placing Scripture where you look the most. Think about it. Your home screen, lock screen, widgets, wallpapers, even specific notifications. Saved posts you refer back to. Let truth interrupt your day. Instead of a notification pulling you away, Let a verse pull you back to center.
That's brilliant. It's like fighting fire with fire, but in a good way, using the very platforms that distract us to bring us back to God. I actually have a verse on my lock screen right now, and it really does make a difference when I pick up my phone.
It really does. Small, consistent nudges. Third, we have the one-tab rule. This is for when you're doing something important: prayer, reading, work, reflection. Keep only one tab open on your browser, one app open on your device, one tab, one task, one moment. This might sound overly simple, but it actually retrains your brain toward depth and focus, rather than fragmented attention.
Oh, that's a tough one for me. I'm definitely a multi-tab person, but I can see the wisdom in it. It's about minimizing those opportunities for distraction, isn't it?
Exactly. It's about creating a space for singular focus. And fourth is attention tithing. Before giving the world your attention, give God the first 10%. If you're awake 16 hours, that's about 96 minutes. Now that might sound daunting, so start small. Maybe 10 minutes. Offer the first fruits of your focus to God before you dive into anything else.
I like that framing, attention tithing. It really emphasizes the spiritual offering aspect we talked about earlier. It's recognizing that this valuable resource, our attention, is ultimately God's, and we're giving back a portion to Him first.
Yes, exactly. And finally, the fifth practice: replace scrolls with stills. Every time you feel that urge to scroll, that unconscious swipe, that mindless refresh, pause, take a breath, and whisper, "Lord, my attention belongs to you." This small pause can completely shift your habits. It breaks the cycle, even for a moment, and allows you to recenter.
That's so practical. It's an immediate intervention for that impulsive, passive attention we talked about. Instead of letting the scroll carry you away, you actively choose stillness and rededication. These are all so good, Manasseh.
They really are. And they're all designed to help us cultivate what the book of Hebrews calls for. Fix your eyes on Jesus. Hebrews 12:2. Not glance, not occasionally look. Fix, meaning let Him be your focal point, your anchor, your absolute center.
That fix is so important. It implies intentionality, unwavering commitment, not just a fleeting moment, but a sustained gaze.
Right. Because when your attention is fixed on Jesus, truly fixed, fear loses its grip, anxiety loosens its hold, comparison weakens because you're not looking at others, confusion fades because your ultimate truth is clear, purpose strengthens, peace rises. It's a complete transformation. Your gaze shapes your soul, and your soul shapes your life.
It really does. It brings us back to that core truth. You become what you behold. And if we behold Jesus, we become more like Him. It's the ultimate form of spiritual formation.
Absolutely. So as we close today's episode, here's your challenge, friends. We've given you 5 powerful practices. Choose just one attention practice to apply for the next 3 days. Will it be the first gaze principle, setting your day's direction? Will it be one-tab living, to cultivate depth?
Or maybe scripture on your home screen, letting truth interrupt your day, redirecting your scroll into prayer, transforming that impulsive urge, or perhaps attention tithing, giving God the first fruits of your focus.
Exactly. Choose one. Practice it intentionally. Let it begin to shape your inner world. Because when your gaze turns toward God, your entire life turns with it. Attention is worship. Worship is formation. And formation is how your soul becomes like Christ in a world full of noise.
Manasseh, this has been such a critical conversation. I truly believe if listeners take just one of these practices, it can begin to make a monumental difference in their spiritual health. Thank you so much for breaking this down for us.
You're welcome, Emmanuel. And to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If this resonated with you, please share it with someone you know who needs to reclaim their spiritual attention. It's a message that needs to get out there.
Definitely. And join us next time for episode 7, where we'll be exploring another incredibly relevant topic: when comparison kills calling, social media, and the spiritual identity crisis. I know that one will hit home for many.
Oh, that's going to be a good one. Until then, friends, may your mind be steady, your eyes be clear, and may your attention rest where your spirit flourishes. We'll talk to you next time.